Hello, welcome to this edition of the Credit Union Connection. I am here with the amazing Andy Howell, CEO at Uncommon Giving. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome to meet you. So you guys must be busy this time of year.
Yeah, this is sort of our peak season, time in the sun, as they say. We, people always refer to the sort of holiday season as the giving season. And then nowadays, there's a huge movement around this Giving Tuesday, which if you're aware of, it's sort of you sort of have Black Friday, you have Thanksgiving and then Black Friday and then Cyber Monday, and now they have Giving Tuesday, and corporations have really adopted that, and donors have really adopted that as a great day for giving. So it's been a huge success.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting. You go from one side, the whole consumerism, to the other side, giving back. So yeah, I was reading some stats that 57% of people are going to give the same as they did last year. 30% are going to give more. Same goes for the time dedicated to volunteerism as well. And that kind of surprised me, especially given the economy. How about you?
Well, I've been in the how I should say the nonprofit ecosystem for a long time. I've worked in a number of software companies that support nonprofits, either through donor management or fundraising, and then a couple of companies that support donors and particularly companies that engage their employees in generosity. And it has never ceased to amaze me how generous people are in the United States. And it seems to be really kind of maybe the most resilient consumer spend, if you consider it that, as a part of our economy. It tends to go up. I think it's really incredible. And so if there's a need, and sometimes that's an economic need, so you think, everybody's maybe feeling the effects of the economy, but if there's a need, people feel it. It's really incredible.
It is, and especially, hopefully we can get that all year round.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when you have faith in people, they tend to they can definitely come out and surprise you, or with their generosity. But I'm sure still many nonprofits might struggle with fundraising this year. You think? Are you hearing that at all?
Well, everyone's always talking about that. People set goals, they want to achieve them, and they want to do better than they did before. So we'll see how the year plays out. I think it's been a big year for giving. I do think there's been a little bit of a drag with inflation and just some general economic issues that people are wondering about. But I think overall, U.S. giving is going to kind of maintain that resiliency that we talked about earlier. But yeah, I think nonprofits are always looking to find people that care about the mission that they serve. And so that, they also have better tools nowadays. They have ways to communicate with people and find those that might be compelled to support them in their ultimate mission. In some ways, it's not just about, fundraising or raising a certain amount of dollars. It's sort of accomplishing the impact that they set out to make. And so I think people are passionate in that space. And so, there's always been a struggle to sort of compete for donors, find space.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things to do.
There's so many worthy causes out there for sure. I always have trouble, deciding how much where and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that also surprised me that you guys have, that Uncommon Giving has on its website, is some of the stats, and it kind of goes to that point of the mission and having a purpose. Some of the stats about employee retention and engagement around corporate giving programs. It says that employees are 5 times more engaged at companies with volunteer programs. 50% reduction in turnover has been experienced. 13% increase in productivity. It's interesting to try to connect those dots. How does that work? I
think it's obviously we support philanthropy, so the act of giving or your time or your money, so volunteering or giving dollars. But it turns out in today's world, I think it's always been this way, it's just slightly more discussed now. If a companies generally have a set of core values, they really believe in something. And oftentimes it has some community impact or giving back or, just being a good corporate citizen. And that's attractive to employees that want to work for a company that is that. And so having a workplace generosity program just manifests. It's a good way to sort of walk the talk of your core values or live your values. And so if they can, so we just think about it, I guess the slightly broader, you think about enabling philanthropy. So giving your employees a way to do good, to help someone else. It doesn't have to be dollars, but just to do something for someone else. And then how that could be part of the employee experience. So a couple of things have happened over recent times. We don't go to the office as much as we used to. So people are a little bit more distributed. So they don't really build it would be harder to build a relationship between employer and employee, or also with your fellow employees, just through the traditional employee engagement tactics. And so there's data everywhere that shows that if a company can support an employee in their desire to make an impact, whether it's just do something good for someone else or impact a charity that they really care about, then they will get the benefits of retention and engagement and productivity and overall morale. Mm-hmm. I think it stems, from the basic neuroscience of doing good for someone. Helping someone else is great for the recipient of that help, but it's also really good for the giver. It creates oxytocin in the body, which is the happiness chemical. It reduces stress. It creates self-esteem. In the context of employees doing a volunteer opportunity together, they get to go with their coworkers and their friends and go make an impact, kind of in the context of work, but it's not work. It's just, so you build deeper relationships. All that inures back to the benefit of the folks that are trying to make sure their employees are engaged and feel good about the employer, the company, the brand, what do we stand for? And so it's funny, we talk about it all the time, and it's sort of under our nose. It's the employee engagement tactic that's right under our nose. We used to build office spaces with all kinds of fun things for people to do, to kind of make them happy, or put kombucha machines in the kitchen, or, all those kind of things. And it turns out if you just support someone in allowing them to be generous with their time, that's kind of the ultimate human nature. And you can tap into that. It's very easy to manage, very cost-effective thing to manage. But you'll start seeing, if your focus is, I don't want to say like less on philanthropy and more on employee engagement, but just on both, you can get both by supporting folks in their desire to do something good for somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's interesting because it ties so well with credit unions.
Yeah.
Step back a little bit, because you guys work with some huge companies like Chick-fil-A and others. How and why did you land on credit unions also?
Well, it's interesting. The founders, the original founders of Uncommon Giving were actually community bankers. So not in the credit union necessarily, but sort of I think there's some similarities in the sense that they were very, part of their identity was supporting their community. Now, they don't have members and, that kind of thing, but they really built a platform to support generosity in their employees. And then, of course, through a technology platform, you get data, so you can report on it and you can tell your story. And that's not disingenuous. And it's just really nice for your community to know that our employees volunteered this many hours for this many local nonprofits in the community. I mean, that's part of your brand. That's part of your identity. It's part of your giving back to the community. And so there's always been a little bit of an ethos there. But anyway, we thought that, credit unions are going to be just like any other employer, maybe more so. They really care about their team and their employees, and they're trying to get the best talent, just like any other business. And so keeping them longer and then being more happy while they're at work, is great. But I think they also support their communities heavily and their members. And so being able to sort of enable that in a local community and then to be able to tell your story effectively just seemed to be a perfect fit for Uncommon Giving.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how's it going so far working with credit unions?
Well, it's going great. We've learned a lot. There's definitely some specific things we built into our platform. Some are some are translatable to other businesses, like the concept of having volunteer time off as a benefit. Go out and do some volunteering, and you get some time off from your company to do that, or just getting groups together to go run a volunteer opportunity that's really impactful for them, where they can sign up and decide they want to go with their friends and go do it. So we've added some cool things to the platform, but I think the main thing is just how heavy on culture and mission and dedication to their local community, has just been, it's been really fun, really fun to see in action. And if we can play a small part in supporting that through, cost-effective software that just lets, what we like to do is, we think that the businesses we support, credit unions specifically, already have the core values, the mission focus, the cultural identity that they have in their company. And we just want to we want to make it easy for them to administer that activity. So they're spending their time thinking of good ideas to go do, rather than getting Excel sheets out and adding it up and, or mailing checks to nonprofits, just even the fact that we can disperse to the nonprofits on their behalf, with a push of a button, just takes a lot of the administrative headache off. And I think sometimes folks, a lot that we work for, particularly in credit union space, they're just doing a lot, but they wouldn't mind having a slightly more organized or, more continuous, and with a platform, or the software platform, you can have your sort of, I don't want to call it top down, but you can have your campaigns and your, areas of focus that you focus on, but then you can also sort of weave your employees into the mix, maybe set up a generosity committee of people that come up with good ideas of things to go do. So it can be a little bit more grassroots oriented, a little bit more employee owned. And then the other thing, with a platform like Uncommon, is you can involve your members if you wanted to take it outside the workplace, or friends and family. And I think that's just an extension of your impact in the community, is to actually get people to do some of the things that you're sponsoring, and it's just great for the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And brand is so important, especially when the economy is slow. In marketing, so like, but building your brand during the slow times when people may not be buying, is the better time to build that brand, so that people, know that you're there for them, basically.
And there's all kinds of marketing, and we don't think of ourselves as we do think of ourselves as someone that can help amplify someone's brand, but we also view it as sort of an authentic thing, so if people are going out and doing this, there's really no harm in telling the story of all the great acts of generosity and, area causes that people supported. And so, if, again, we were talking about sort of components of it, if philanthropy is a really big deal, or employee engagement is a really big deal, or just telling your brand story is a really big deal, you can kind of get all three of those to a well-run, workplace giving program.
And how does this work on the credit union's end? Like, what is the lifting involved on their side? How much time does it take to be up and running, that kind of stuff?
Well, it takes really zero time to be up and running. I mean, it's in production. We just basically send you an authentication code. We'll work. What we do, the way we think about it is we have a customer success team that supports, maybe the team that would be in charge of administering a program, which could be sometimes it's CEOs and CFOs, sometimes it's a person whose title is community impact or community engagement or marketing or HR. And so we just have a wealth of ideas of things you can do in your program to support, make it more effective. And we like to spend our time doing that. So there's no setup fees, and it's all, running. It's just a matter of what you would want to do to support your program. A lot of credit unions have foundations and work with others that have foundations. And so we've seen some deploy like a matching gift program, really powerful thing. If you give your employees a electronic tool like ours to go do their volunteering and keep their time and tell their stories and post their photos and keep their full history of impact, or give their money away to the things they care about, that in and of itself is really powerful. But I mentioned volunteer time off. People are sort of supporting that through almost like a benefit, or maybe they're doing some matching donations. So if you give money to a cause that you really care about, we'll match that donation. And that's really impactful, because it tells your employees, we care about what you care about. And the same is true with volunteering hours. They call that dollars for doers, but you can sort of match hours. And I mean, volunteering, it changes every year, but I think right now, most sources of value a volunteering hour as about $31 of economic impact to the community. So if people prefer to give away their time or their money, I mean, volunteers tend to give more money too. They just tend to be more generous, but being able to sort of tell that story of the economic impact that your employees are making, it's, and I don't even, sometimes we think about it like telling our story. I don't necessarily mean running television ads and telling how the outside world, how great your people are, but even communicating it internally, like, look how generous you are, spending some time at the company meetings to add this, maybe we're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about the business sections of the company, but maybe we spend some time talking about the generosity and highlight people. And through a platform like ours, people can post their photos and so forth. So it makes it really easy to make a slide and just, I don't know, highlight. And then that just has workplace culture benefits, and back to our employee engagement thing.
Yeah, great morale booster.
Mm-hmm.
So how
and it also creates a little FOMO. So we always see the programs as soon as people see the goodness that their coworkers are doing, they generally want to go experience that.
Yeah. So how about final thoughts from you as far as like giving platform, working with credit unions, anything that we kind of already touched on, or something we hadn't? What are your final thoughts?
Well, we sort of think of ourselves as trying to amplify generosity, and I almost think that I think that's a good thing, because I think it's happening. People want to do good. People derive benefit from helping someone else, and of course, the recipients of that goodness benefit from it. So we always talk about them, but I think if I were trying to sort of manifest my corporate culture, you spend a lot of time thinking about, what do we stand for? What are our core values? Who are we as a personality? I think just giving a nod to this and then letting it be slightly less top down, maybe a little bit more employee owned, gives it, like the old engagement scale. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but if you're a recipient of something good, that's great. But if you kind of co-created it, it's even better and you're engaged more. So I say, like, empower your employees to weigh in and come up with ideas. And that has other benefits, right? Because then it's not as administratively difficult to run, because you're not the only person or the few people thinking of all the things. But then you also get this, it kind of takes on a life of its own. And I think it can be, corporate culture there's many ways to enhance it, build it. And I just think this is just one really good kind of authentic way to have it a part of your employee experience. And we also, when people do something through the platform, if it's okay with corporate, giving them a place to tell their own personal story is kind of neat. The credit union gave me this platform. This is what I did, and tell their stories, and it just creates an ongoing conversation that I think can be really powerful to add to the corporate benefit plan.
Thank you very much, Andy, for bringing your time here and connecting with us at the Credit Connection, as well as credit unions.
Sarah, thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you.